Dear viewers, Drishti IAS welcomes you to the new series of Simplified. Today's topic of discussion is Schedules of Indian Constitution. The dimensions we are going to cover are Introduction, Objectives of providing schedule in the Indian Constitution, and lastly, various schedules. So let's begin with a brief introduction. Schedules are basically tables which contain additional details not mentioned in the articles. There are 12 schedules in the Constitution of India. One of the first mentions of schedules was made in the Government of India Act 1935, where it included 10 schedules. Later, when the Indian Constitution was adopted in 1949, it consisted of 8 schedules. Today, with the amendments in the Indian Constitution, there are a total of 12 schedules. Now let's discuss about the objectives of providing schedule in the Indian Constitution. The objective of the schedule is to make the Act's provisions less complicated by separating the legal element from the additional information, making it more brief and easy to understand. This division created by the timetable is also advantageous in the event of revisions. If there was no such separation, every time the additional information needed to be updated, an update to the article itself would be required, which is a time-consuming process. The schedule is utilized not just in the Indian Constitution, but also in a variety of laws for diverse purposes. It is used to establish a list of states and union territories, as well as a list of other subject matters that fall under the jurisdiction of the state, the union, or both. Schedules can also be utilized when a certain section or article of legislation requires additional clarification or information not included in the main text. Now let's discuss about the various schedules. First of all, we will discuss the first schedule of Indian Constitution. It contains the names of states and union territories, and territorial jurisdiction of states is also included. Moving on to the second schedule of Indian Constitution, the provisions in relation to allowances, privileges, emoluments of President of India, Governors of Indian states, Speaker of Lok Sabha and Deputy Speaker of Lok Sabha, Chairman of Rajya Sabha and Deputy Chairman of Rajya Sabha, Speaker and Deputy Speaker of Legislative Assemblies of Indian states, Chairman and Deputy Chairman of Legislative Councils of the Indian states, Supreme Court judges, High Court judges, and Comptroller and Auditor General of India, that is CAG. Now let's discuss third schedule. It contains the forms of oath and affirmation for Union Ministers of India, Parliament election candidates, MPs, that is Members of Parliament, Supreme Court judges, Comptroller and Auditor General, State Ministers, State Legislature elections candidates, State Legislature members, and High Court judges. Shifting to fourth schedule, it contains the provisions in relation to the allocation of seats for states and union territories in the Rajya Sabha. Fifth schedule, it contains provisions in relation to the administration and control of scheduled areas and scheduled tribes. Sixth schedule, it contains provisions in relation to the administration of tribal areas in the states of Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura and Mizoram. Now seventh schedule, Article 246 of the Constitution confers legislative powers on the Parliament and the state legislators on the subjects enumerated in the 7th schedule. This schedule deals with the 3 legislative lists. First is Union. It is a list of 98, originally 97, numbered items as provided in the 7th schedule. The Union Government or Parliament of India has exclusive power to legislate on matters relating to these items. Second is State List. It is a list of 59, originally 66 items. The respective state governments have exclusive power to legislate on matters relating to these items. And third list is concurrent list, in which there are 52, originally 47 items currently in the list. This includes items which are under the joint domain of the Union as well as the respective states. Now let's discuss 8th schedule. It deals with the 22 official languages recognized by the Indian Constitution. The 8th schedule to the Constitution consists of the following 22 languages: Assamese, Bengali, Gujarati, Hindi, Kannada, Kashmiri, Konkani, Malayalam, Manipuri, Marathi, Nepali, Odia, Punjabi, Sanskrit, Sindhi, Tamil, Telugu, Urdu, Bodo, Santhali, Maithili and Dogri. Of these languages, 14 were initially included in the Constitution. Sindhi language was added by the 21st Amendment Act of 1967, whereas Konkani, Manipuri and Nepali were included by the 71st Amendment Act of 1992. And Bodo, Dogri, Maithili and Santhali were added by the 92nd Amendment Act of 2003, which came into force in 2004. Now the 9th schedule. 9th schedule deals with the state acts and regulations that deal with land reforms and abolition of the zamindari system. It also deals with the acts and regulations of the Parliament dealing with other matters. First Amendment Act 1951 added the 9th schedule to protect the laws included in it from judicial scrutiny on the ground of violation of fundamental rights. However, in 2007, the Supreme Court ruled that the laws included in this schedule after April 24, 1973 are now open to judicial review. Now let's discuss the 10th schedule. It contains provisions relating to disqualification of the members of parliament and state legislators on the ground of defection. This schedule was added by the 52nd Amendment Act of 1985, also known as Anti-Defection Law. Grounds of disqualification are: if an elected member gives up his membership of a political party voluntarily, if he votes or abstains from voting in the House contrary to any direction issued by his political party, if any member who is independently elected joins any party, and if any nominated member joins any political party after the end of 6 months. Now the exceptions under the anti-defection law are: in the situation where 2/3 of the legislators of a political party decide to merge in another party, neither the members who decide to join nor the ones who stay with the original party will face disqualification. Any person elected as chairman or speaker can resign from his party and rejoin the party if he demits that post. Earlier, the law allowed parties to be split, but at present, this has been outlawed. Deciding authority. Any question regarding disqualification arising out of defection is to be decided by the presiding officer of the House. Now moving on to the 11th schedule. It contains the provisions that specify the powers, authority and responsibilities of panchayats. It has 29 matters. This schedule was added by the 73rd Amendment Act of 1992. This amendment implements the Article 40 of the DPSP, which says that state shall take steps to organize village panchayats and endow them with such powers and authority as may be necessary to enable them to function as units of self-government, and have upgraded them from non-justifiable to justifiable part of the Constitution. It has put constitutional obligation upon states to enact the Panchayati Raj Acts as per provisions of the Part 9. However, states have been given enough freedom to take their geographical, politico, administrative and other conditions into account while adopting the Panchayati Raj system. Now lastly, let's discuss the 12th schedule. It deals with the provisions that specify the powers, authority and responsibilities of municipalities. This schedule was added by the 74th Amendment Act of 1992. It has 18 matters including urban planning, including town planning, regulation of land use and construction of buildings, planning for economic and social development, roads and bridges, and water supply for domestic, industrial and commercial purposes, etc. So that's all for today. Stay tuned for the next episode. Thanks for watching.